Video request that I got from somebody like a month ago, and I just didn't get around to doing it. Sorry it took me so long to do it. I just forgot. It's about how to develop your psychic powers. I think I actually did this video like 4 years ago on my own, but I'll do it again as a request video. Not like I'm like a expert on the subject, but somebody gave me the request, so I'll do the answer. How to develop psychic powers? Well, I think with being able to read somebody's mind, like read somebody's intentions, and I mean, the whole purpose of trying to have psychic powers is to be able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes to see what makes them tick, so that you can figure them out, so that you know why they do stuff and what they'd want to do, and what they want from you and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's pretty much the same thing as like empathy, being empathetic. And which is kind of tuning into somebody's heart and their feelings. There's a whole lot more communication through your heart than there is your mind. I read a book like a few years ago. It was about Arcturians, the aliens, the Arcturians from the red giant star. So they're really old, the wisest, most ancient humans in our part of the galaxy. They're little humans, and they're almost in the spirit world, and they're born way out in space, and they live a long time and all that kind of stuff. But they're saying that when you communicate, there's actually more communication through your heart. And then I found out I heard later that there's this the Heart Math Institute. They do different like scientific studies having to do with the heart. Then the astronaut Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man to walk on the moon, was like one of the directors of it. And anyway, they found out that the heart can send out. You can pick up like frequency from somebody's heart up to 8 feet in radius. So you have like a 16-foot radius where your heart is actually sending out a certain vibration, energy. And so if you walk within 8 feet of somebody, you can pick up on their feelings, which I think makes sense to me. That translates into what they're thinking. The heart also has like 70,000 nerve cells in it, and the heart's a muscle. So if you're, and even in by today's technology of medicine, doctors still say, "Oh no, the heart is just a pump," and we all know from intuitively and from history and our language and everything that the heart is where our feelings are. But scientifically, I don't think mainstream like doctors actually acknowledge that. It's the wacky doctors who are like, no way, there's 70,000 nerve cells in your heart. You do have feelings there. And it's interesting to think how something we've always known is now being proven scientifically. But so anyways, the point is that if you want to, get inside somebody's head, you would go through their heart. You could go through the heart, understand a lot more, because there's more information coming from that, and it's a lot more powerful, and energy and information that comes at you. So yeah, I think if you're empathetic with somebody, and you feel their energies, then you could kind of feel where they're coming from, like why they would be, like you could detect if they're angry or sad or something, and also, like in general that day, but also how they're relating to you. If you say something to somebody, and even if they're standing behind you, and they react negatively to it, you can tell because you're within that 16-foot radius, And maybe, even in other more subtle ways, you can do it over the phone or, remotely. But, yeah, I think you can detect like different, emotions from somebody, if they're standing right behind you, like if somebody took it well or if they took it poorly without any sound, you could just feel it. And so I think, and if you're going to utilize that kind of stuff, I think it's best. The only way for you to actually be able to utilize reading somebody's heart is by believing in it. If you don't believe in it, you're not opening up the doorway to the possibility. If you believe in it, then you can make it possible. So I think if you want to develop your psychic powers, you should believe that you could pick up emotions from people, and then just practice it, and it can confirm that it's real. We are part of a larger network of connected by our heart and also our minds. I remember when 9/11 happened, they had like some kind of like finely tuned instruments that would pick up data from the atmosphere, I think for like weather type of stuff, but they noticed that on that day they all spiked. There was extra energy and a certain kind of electromagnetic energy that happened that day, and it had nothing to do with the weather, because the weather was same as every other day, so it must have been from that. And so it's just another. There's all sorts of experiments. There's a book called The Field by Lynn McTaggart. I never actually read the book. I want to read it. I got it from the library and then I lost it, and then I found it after it was past due, and so I probably should have read it, but I turned it back in. But they have all sorts of experiments like that. Like if you take somebody's blood out and then you take it like to the 2,000 miles away, and then you do an experiment on it, like you boil the blood or something and it curls into DNA. Or no, you do that to yourself, like you stress the person out, the subject, their DNA would shrivel up at the same time. So like remote causality, and all sorts of other stuff. There's just tons of experiments like that, random number generators and that kind of stuff. Just kind of shows that our brains and ourselves do influence the radio waves, just like radio antennas do. Those are just like crude machines, and we're the more finely tuned ones. So to keep that in mind and to study that and to think about it, I think you're going to be more in tune with that world, and you can develop your skills. If you believe in it and you're always kind of testing it out. That's how you would develop your psychic powers. But yeah, I think to develop psychic powers, if you want to develop, your mental psychic powers, the first thing to do is develop your heart powers. So just be as empathetic as you can, like feel the emotions of try to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and even animals' shoes and stuff, just so. And the quickest way to do that is to be nice, be considerate. Like, don't kick a cat or kick a dog, or even, this is kind of going overboard, but, something like killing an insect, Last night I woke up and there's a big old spider was running around on my back, and I wished him off my bed. I tried to kill him, but it was under my pillow, and then I wished him away, but the best thing to do would have been to, capture the spider in my hand or somewhere, and then just like throw him out of the window, and not kill him, because it kind of, I don't know, it's just another little technique to have empathy for other animals. But it's more, but even a better way, I think, would be to just to be really kind to every person you meet, an animal, and if you see a squirrel, make eye contact with the squirrel and see if you can see what he's thinking. Smoking marijuana would definitely help develop psychic powers, because I remember once I was really high. I don't know, I wasn't really high, but I was high, and there's a squirrel near my mom's house, and I was looking at him, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him. And if you look really into squirrels' eyes, you can tell that they have like pupils and irises and stuff. It's not just all black. So you can tell where they're focusing, and you can tell that they're looking in your eyes, and as you're looking in their eyes, just kind of with like dogs and cats. And we kind of had this like psychic connection. It was like he was like, like, you're not the enemy, you're a person, and you're one of those people who put the food out for us, and you don't want to hurt me, do you? And I think squirrels are one of these animals that are kind of evolving, because recently we have been, feeding them and stuff, and not hunting them, and so I think they're starting to evolve into being domestic animals, and so maybe like in a few thousand years they would be, running in your house and eating out of your hand, and you can pet them, and they'd even develop a brain, because they could, mutate into an animal that would empathize with you, and, kind of like a cat or a dog, I'm sure it took a long time for cats and dogs to evolve into the animals that they are now. So just, communicating with animals, communicating with, things that aren't like you, animals or people. I had another experience a few weeks ago. I talked about it in another video, but I had a telepathic, and it was the first telepathic communication I had with an animal that was like where I was actually inside of the animal's brain completely, and like so much inside the animal's brain that if I could reconnect to that really brief moment that I was with that animal, my brother's dog. It's like a big Australian sheepdog. It's a female, like 4 years old or something, or 6 years old or something. And if you can reconnect with that being in that animal's mind, you could figure out all sorts of other stuff. You'd know exactly what it's like to be a dog, like everything that a dog would know. You know what I mean? Like I was totally in the animal's brain. And if you ever have an experience like that, it's cool to try to milk it. It's kind of like a dream. You have a dream, and I had a dream journal back in '96, and I was getting up at 4 a.m. and writing it, and I would start to remember dreams I had when I was like 5 and stuff like it was yesterday. So it opens up that part of your brain. And anyways, the idea, the kind of what I gleaned from the dog was. It was interesting. I was over at my mom's house, and my brother was there, and my brother's dog was there. And I grabbed the dog to put up on the back porch on a leash because I wanted the dog to be in the sun. And then my mom said, "No, take the dog for a walk." So I took it off the leash, and then I put like the walking leash on the dog, and then I was going to have to do something real quick. And so there was like confusion, because my mom's telling me to do one thing, and, I put the dog on one leash and I put him on another leash. So I briefly, just accidentally, I like was inside the dog's head, and the dog was going like, "What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? This is confusing." And it was, also you could see it on her face, but I was inside the dog's head, and, at that point, I just felt like what it was like to be a dog, like she knew that we wanted her to go somewhere, and she was trying to please us and trying to figure us out. She knew that we loved her, but she also knew that, we were the boss. Like we told her what to do. And she knew that. And I think and I also picked up that, dogs, I think I saw on the internet that they did a study recently, and they found out that dogs think really similar to humans. And there's one thing people always probably wonder, like, do dogs ever wish they were humans? And I think that's what I gleaned from it was that the dog kind of, they see themselves like humans, except in in four-legged humans in animal bodies, and I think a lot of thoughts that go through their heads are like, we wish we were human. Maybe in the next life we'll be human. I think all animals believe in reincarnation, because they're more connected to the spirit world because they're younger than us. And the younger you are, the more connected you are to the spirit world, because the farther you go forward in time, the less you remember. You can remember stuff that happened more recently. So that's one reason they believe in reincarnation. But she yeah, but they're like, I wish I was human. Maybe next life I'll be a human. But I'm a dog. But I'm not the boss now. You're the boss, and kind of unfair. I'm a dog, but maybe next time. And that's just how it is. Oh yeah, and also like I wish like humans don't realize how smart we are. I think that's one thought that dogs have. Like humans don't realize that we're just like you. We have feelings like you. You can hurt our feelings. We want respect, and to actually contemplate that and think of dogs as humans is important, because a lot of people don't realize that. I think dogs are really stupid. A lot of people even think that dogs don't even have souls. Or animals don't have souls at all. Like, or or believe in reincarnation. So like if a dog's a dog once and a human's a human once, and that's it. It's like accident. Just luck of the draw type of a thing, and so that's destructive to understand how intelligent animals are, because you can't really look at animals as being on a level like equal to you overall, like their soul's equal to you, if you think they're only going to live once, because and the same thing goes true with like different people, like poor people or rich people or like people from the third world, tribal people. If you think they just live one life, then you would think, oh well, the rich, the president, he's just a better person. He's just smarter and everything's better about him, and so he has the right to be the god and boss everybody around because because you have one life to live, and there's all this different stratification, so the rich people are better, but there's not that stratification if you look at it, if you can believe in reincarnation, because you look at it in the long term, and you can see that you bounce around. You're born here, you're born there, you're born here. And also, maybe souls are younger that are in dogs, but in the long run, they all pass up through the same food chain, and so they'll eventually get where you are. So in the long run, eternity, they're equal. We're all equal. So yeah, I mean, I think you can only really develop a true understanding of what it's like to be every different kind of human, like life form, if you believe in if you have a holistic and accurate spiritual outlook on everything. You have to believe in reincarnation. You have to believe in order to believe that everybody's the same and equal, and if you can do that, then you can actually get into the mindset and the head of everything. When you find out that it's all, like we're all part of the same thing, then you can see how it's all connected, and then you can trace all the different, branches that branch out from the little trunks and to the trees and the twigs and the leaves. Like if God looks like a tree with a trunk, and we're all the little extremities, and we see how it's all related, you can kind of compare and connect it all and understand it all and be more empathetic and be more psychic. Just as a really quick like anecdote, there's a story of these like the five blind men, and they're all grabbing an elephant, and one guy's got the tail, and so he thinks it's a rope. One guy's got the ears, he thinks it's a fan. One guy's got the trunk, so he thinks or the legs, so he thinks it's a tree. One guy's touching his body, so he thinks it's a wall. One guy's touching the trunk, so he thinks it's a hose. One guy's touching the horns, so he thinks it's like something else. So, But if they could just open their eyes or be more open-minded and communicate with each other, they could figure out that it's an elephant. So, or describe something more accurate. And so being open-minded and having a more expansive, spiritual idea about stuff will help you understand what it's like to be all different kinds of beings. And then you could actually tap into your own past life memories of when you were a different kind of human or even an animal, and then tap into their mind. And then whenever you actually come across like a person in a certain situation or anything that's different from any person that's different from you, you can tap into that mindset that they're in and see where they're coming from, and which will allow you to read their minds, to be psychic. And now another technique of learning how to be psychic is to trust your instincts, like trust your intuition. The very first thought that you have about something is the correct one, So like if you, and I think if you look back in your life of people, you could kind of confirm it, like if you meet somebody and you just get like a bad vibe off of them, like they're just, you don't feel comfortable around them. They make you feel like, like they're a danger to you or something, like they're going to invade your space or something. They just have bad vibe, and, and then later on, and then, they have a really like talkative personality or something, and they're really charming. So then you forget about that very first intuitive feeling you had about them, and then they're just a normal person, and then they fuck you over in the end. It's like, oh yeah, just try to remember that first idea you had about them, and I could name lots of people like that, and it can confirm that it's true, that the first feeling you have about something is actually the correct one. Yeah. And same thing with good people, if you meet somebody and they have really good energy, but maybe they're a little bit weird. So you're because they're just different, and people who are different are like, people don't really trust them as much. But then you find out that they're really cool, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember in the beginning when I first met him, he was different and weird, but he had good energy, and he ended up being cool. So then you can if you think back on how you first interact with people, it's kind of like you can calibrate your bullshit detector. You can calibrate your little psychic sensors, because the next person you see, you'll be more in tune to picking up on the subtle things, because it's really subtle, the feelings you have about somebody, but it's instantaneous, So just like, that's why they say first impressions are the most important. It's not so much, I don't think, like how you dress or anything like that, but it's actually the energy, because you're seeing a person for the first time, they're that individual, because we're all individuals. We're like fingerprints, we're all different. So that individual, you're seeing it for the first time. So now they're providing a contrast with the whole rest of the world, because they're an individual you're seeing for the first time. And that contrast is what shows what they really are, And then once you get used to them, there's not so much of a contrast anymore, because they're in your world and everything's normal. So that's why the first impression is so important. Contrast is what helps you understand things. You can, because everything in the universe is relative. Everything world, and it's all relative. Like it's like Jimmy Johnson's rich. Well, compared to who? You know what I mean? Anna Sue is super smart. Well, compared to who? It's all relative. So, taking a step back and looking at something from a unique point of view, where you can really see them as an individual, is the only time you can really see somebody as an individual is when you very first meet them, because they're an individual, they're new and fresh. So that's why, just so it's good to be really in tune with the moment, and be in the present, in your mind, and experience everything in its completeness at that moment. So that, because it's ephemeral, it's here and gone. It's almost instantaneous, you know. So just be there, and then meet the person, and then be at the moment with the person and say, oh, hello, and like maintain eye contact with them. I think, and then feel their energy, and then have that little moment, and then you can basically know everything about them in that moment. You'll know if you're going to mix with them. You're going to know where they stand with you. Because we all have different relationships with everybody. We're like puzzle pieces. And we all have different energy signatures and all sorts of different mixtures of all the different personality prototypes, and so we all kind of fit into the group in a different way. Like if you're usually really loud and aggressive, and then you go in a room where everybody just happens to be loud and aggressive type personality, you're not going to, maybe it's appropriate for you to be the quiet one, because you're just not as loud, as aggressive as the other guys. And so you would change your personality, and you would fit like a puzzle. You'd be like a molding puzzle piece that you'd fit into the group of people. Or if you're normally a really quiet person, and then you go into a room where everybody's really quiet, well, maybe you're the least quiet person, and so now you're the loud one, and so you would be even more loud and talkative than you normally would be. So we're always adjusting to the environment on how we're going to be, and and we're always changing. Like I may be the loudest guy, and Jimmy Joe could be the quietest guy, but then the next day Jimmy Joe's the loudest guy and I'm the quietest guy, because our personalities are changing, even within the course of a day or something. So that's the contrast that I'm talking about. And being in the moment, like going in there and just feeling how everybody is, and then seeing where you are, and deliberately being a different personality archetype. If the more different kinds of personality archetypes you can be in as many different kinds of groups of people as you can be, the more you're going to understand yourself and where you stand, and the more you're going to understand those particular personality archetypes, and so you're going to understand the other people and all of their little personality archetypes, like the aggressive guy, the quiet guy, the funny guy, the this, the that, and which will then allow you to empathize with them and then read their minds. I know there's lots of different techniques for reading somebody's mind, being psychic. I haven't really studied up on that, but if somebody's talking to you and they look up to the right, that means they're actually having a real memory of something. But if they look down like this, then they're kind of lying, and they're thinking of something to remember, to like something to be creative and make up a lie or something. So yeah, looking at somebody's eye patterns is one thing. And whether or not somebody is answering you, if you ask somebody a question and they just refuse to answer you, or they give you an indirect answer, then that suggests that they're lying and not being honest. Somebody who but if somebody over explains something, then they're straight up lying. So if they just give you the exact answer you're asking for, and it's quick, and they're looking right in your eye as they say it, then they're being honest. And so so those things are good to pay attention to if you want to get inside somebody's head. Because if you can detect that somebody's lying to you, then you could take the bigger picture and say, oh well, then why are they lying to me? And now what's the energy that they're giving me? And taking in, the more different data points you take in, the more you're going to understand. And that's why the more open-minded you are, the smarter you're going to be, and the more you're going to understand, and the more psychic you are. So the more open-minded you are, the more psychic you're going to be. The more closed-minded you are, the less psychic you're going to be. And it's possible to be super psychic. I think if you look at all of the thing I was talking about before, where our brains can influence the electromagnetic fields in our hearts can influence each other and everything, then you got to understand that and then like we talk to each other on the cell phone and on the radio waves talk to each other, then it's kind of goes to show that it's actually natural for us to telepathically communicate with each other with thoughts. When people get abducted by aliens, they telepathically communicate with the aliens. Those little gray aliens that like they're like and without even saying anything, like straight up telepathy, and it's words. Like the alien go. I've heard so many stories where they're like, yeah, the alien said, "Don't worry, you're safe now. We'll bring you back." Like that's a full on conversation, and they were just looking at you. So that goes to show that we actually do have the built-in capability to telepathically communicate with each other, and perhaps that's what the rest of our brain, is for. They say that we only use like 10% of our brain, and Albert Einstein used like 12% of his brain, and they weighed it, and it was actually heavier than other people's brains, and so maybe all the rest of the brain that we're not using is what we're destined to use as the when we start telepathically communicating with each other psychically. That's the latent part, So we're kind of like gods and animal bodies, and we just haven't activated it yet. We haven't become the X-Men to telepathically communicate, and but the way to get there is by believing and focusing on that. Whatever world you focus on, it kind of opens up your brain. Like what I was saying about the dreams. I was recording my dream I had last night, and then I remember dreams I had when I was 5, like it was yesterday. And same thing with past lives. I did a video a couple weeks ago talking about past lives, and I was just remembering past life things I had. And then over the last week, I was like, wait, I could have talked about that. Oh, and I remembered about that. I just remembered so many more. And I should like start a past life video series, because because you're opening up that part of your brain, and not just your physical brain, but like your past life brain, like your mind, opening up that part of your mind, and then it open up the floodgates, just and then it all comes at you. And it's kind of like we're living in a pressure cooker, like we're living in a little bubble, like at the bottom of the sea. We're in a little bubble. And there's all this pressure, like all the water is just constantly pushing down on us. And the only thing that's keeping it out is our little force field. And all we have to do is like let go of the force field, and then it comes in. So all you have to do is like allow it, like opening up a door or opening up the window to let the air pressure come in is effortless. To open up a window, you just slide it, you just turn the knob on the handle and open the door, and it all comes. It's effortless. So all you have to do is it's like Dorothy in the Red Ruby Slippers. She wants to go back to Kansas, so all she had to do is knock them on 3 times. And so all you have to do is just believe, put your mind in that area, and then you're in that area, and then you focus on it, and then it just comes in, and you remember as much as you want. So you can learn and know as much as you want, as much as you allow yourself to know, as much as is appropriate for you. But you can't put yourself into a situation where you'll be damaged if too much information comes at you. And the way to be damaged if too much information comes at you is to be closed-minded, like to not believe in something. And that's a choice, to not believe in something, And the only reason you would not believe it is if you were either brainwashed, because you were just never taught to, and the world you live in doesn't believe in psychic powers and stuff. Or because you're afraid that it'll like hurt you, like it's all negative, and so you like deliberately have a force field. But I think in the long run, it's natural for us to become like evolve into the God realms, and so it's natural for us to let those force fields down and let that energy come in, because we're social beings. We're designed to be connected to the grid, the mental grid. And we're already connected to the mental grid anyway. You're going to be connected whether you want to or not. It's just to what level, like, being brainwashed and everybody believing that, marijuana needs to be illegal and there's no aliens on the earth and you live once and then you die. If everybody believes that, and you believe it because everybody believes it, you're you're influenced by that electromagnetic, etheric zeitgeist, whatever you want to call it, field of the mind, connected by the mind. You're already in there. There's no escaping it. You're either going to be in that one, or you're going to be in the open-minded one, which is always there as well. You just have to, hook into it. It's a lot harder to hook into the open-minded one if everybody around you is on the closed-minded one. But it's still possible. So it's just a matter of where your focus is. Like if you live in some closed-minded city where people don't believe in anything, and you focus on what they believe, and you just choose to focus on what they believe, and you just don't believe in anything else, well, you're not going to open your mind. But if you forget about what they think, and you just live in, and you don't care what they think about you or whatever, and you have an open mind on the bigger picture, because you notice that there's other people in the world who believe like you do, and so you maybe watch their YouTube videos and empathize with them. You can open your mind up to that, and all the information can come flowing in. So, it's like, just let it come, and build it and they will come. Create the space and it will be filled in by information. That's how it works. Like if you're in a low pressure zone in the sky, then all the storm clouds will come rolling in. So create a low pressure zone in your head and take all the drama out, all the bullshit that's filling it up with like disbelief and useless thoughts like anger against somebody, or your ego. What do they think about me? How do I compare to them? Or not even focusing on yourself, like focusing on the outer world, like watching TV. Oh, I wonder if Mary and Sue in the sitcom are going to get back together this episode, or what's happening out there in the news, or that, not paying attention to yourself. You're filling up your mind and your intuition and your being and everything you focus on with crap. And so there's no room for anything else to come in. But if you clear your mind and you close it and you quiet it down, and then you focus on the outer world and all that other possibility of like empathizing with somebody, reading somebody's mind, then it all just fills in that space. And now all of a sudden you're paying attention to what you wanted to all along, and you're getting the information that you wanted to get all along. And I think it's not good to get frustrated, frustrated that you don't have enough psychic understanding of somebody else, because whatever, like everything, all the change, the world is constantly changing, and it's always on schedule. That's a bumper sticker my dad used to have. Everything in the world and the universe is changing, and it's all on schedule. So it's like, whatever happens is appropriate. Wherever you are right now in your life is appropriate, because. And if you focus on, you want to be psychic and you think about it, well, then it's like somebody pointing an arrow at a target, and as soon as you let go, that arrow's flying to the target, and it'll eventually get there, So you're thinking about something, you're focusing on something, you're actually moving yourself closer to that place. So, whatever you think about, you become, kind of like you are what you eat, So if you want to develop your psychic powers, just every time you meet somebody, just be constantly practicing it, and but don't get frustrated that if you don't have it yet, or if somebody else has more than you or whatever. Just do what you can do, and it'll naturally come. Like if something's weighing on you and you're thinking about something a lot, somebody or something. Somebody told me once that maybe they heard that like if you're suddenly you're thinking about somebody a lot all the time, then maybe they're thinking about you, and they're causing you to think about them. Like they're drawing you in, and I believe that. I do, and so that you can make them think about you. But if we start talking about this stuff, we start getting into like superstition and that kind of stuff, because we've always believed that kind of stuff since the way past, but it gets dangerous when it turns into dogma. Like you start believing in it like it's science, like it's real. like omens, like, oh no, a black owl just flew in my window. That means I'm going to die tomorrow. Oh no, don't go outside. You don't take it seriously. This is stuff that it's subtle, and it's stuff that you just use as like a guide, but that you don't live by. Because if you start living by it, then you make it solid, and you make it, because this is stuff isn't in the spirit world, and now you're making it into this world, and you're killing it, and you're inventing something out of your own mind, and you're making it, you're taking it out of its element, and it doesn't, where it doesn't belong, and it's not going to help. It's kind of like, like if you drink water is good for you, but not in an ice form because it's solid, or even like homeopathy, if you inoculate yourself with a little bit of tuberculosis, you'll develop a resistance to it. But if you give too much, then you'll get tuberculosis. So this is abstract stuff I'm trying to talk about. So like, if you're, because we have a long history of being too superstitious with stuff, because lots of different things, like tarot cards or reading entrails of stuff, like that stuff is supposed to be meant to spark your intuition. But if you get lazy and you go, oh yeah, well I say the twisted entrail means that you're gonna like get rich or something like that, well then that's just being lazy, and it's not gonna mean anything, like you don't play tarot cards like, oh, I'm gonna turn over the card, and if it doesn't say lion, then I guess I'm not a lion today, oh no, lizard, oh, so I'm gonna be like I'm gonna be hiding under the rock all day, damn, no, it's not like that. So anyways, yeah, if you want to develop it, you just have to live in the moment and not force it, that's forcing it. Being too dogmatic about superstitious or whatever, that's forcing it. So just use it for what it's, your little intuitive ideas about things and feelings you detect for what it's worth, and fine tune it, and then you can build it up from there. Baby steps. You can't. Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't become a huge bodybuilder like overnight. You have to. It's a skill that you have to develop slowly. Yeah. So. But I think it's possible. I mean, and also to look at, to try to, if you can empathize with a psychic person, then you can take their powers. You can, and I don't mean take their powers away from them, but you can actually suck some of their psychic power off of them, and then you can become psychic, kind of like. If you're in a bad mood and all of a sudden you're hanging out with somebody who's in a really good mood, their good mood can rub off onto you. Well, it's the same thing with a psychic person. If you pay a psychic person to read your past lives, and you're there with you, and they're reading your life, well, you're together. You're actually helping each other. Like if you blocked yourself off to the psychic person, they're not going to be able to read your past life as well. But if you look in their eyes and you let them look in your eyes, and you focus on them, and you answer their questions, and you're with them, and you're calm and everything, and you're cooperating, you're actually creating this, you're creating a moment together that, and you're making it easy for that person to read your mind. So then now you're empathizing with them because you're in their energy, and you're knowing what it's like to be psychic. And so now you can kind of, you can go away, and now you can be that person to somebody else. Their powers can rub off on you, and that's how it works. But you just have to let it flow, and let it come when it's ready, and by opening your gates and being open-minded. You can't be closed-minded, and that's a choice. That's something that you that you have a lot more control over than like subtle psychic powers developing over time. You know, whether or not you're open-minded or not. That's an actual. You can do that. You can completely change instantaneously. You know, you can just think about it. Because a lot of people deny the truth. You know, you tell them and they just don't believe you and they deny, or they think they know more than you. This happens all the time about people who think marijuana should be illegal. They think that they know more about marijuana than you do, and they've never smoked it in their entire life. That's closed-minded. They're never going to understand what it's like to be a stoner if they think that they know more than you and you don't know what it's like to be a stoner when you're the stoner. You know, they're going to be a lot more better off if they actually listen to you and they go, okay, wow, and then they can act, figure it out. And of course, the best way is to smoke weed, and that's easy. That's having a truly open mind. Why don't you just pick it up and smoke it? Have some faith. Oh, I might become a total stoner. Well, you never know until you try. You never know anything until you try. So you got to try. So you have to try. Everything and all the little psychic things, and have an open mind and believe that it's possible, and then it becomes possible. Like all the amazing things we built now in this world. It started out as a dream. Started out as a, like the Wright brothers. They were like, oh, you know what? Birds fly. Well, then why don't we? I think we can. And then they built the thing, and they kept trying, and then they finally did it. Because they thought that they could. And everything's like that. So it also goes with psychic powers. Just try to, like playing psychic games and stuff. Like the little color thing. I played a color game with a psychic girl once, and she was super psychic, man. Like she put her hand on this one kid's head, and and she described his house where he grew up. Like she described a swing or like a bench he had in his backyard. She described where his lawn was, that this river was in his backyard. She described what the river looked like with the color of his house. She described everything. And then she did me, and she described me pretty well too. She said like, oh yeah, your head is like exploding, and like your family, when you grew up, your family were afraid of you and always trying to put you back in a box. But I can't feel anything out of your heart. Oh, really weird. And anyway, she said lots of stuff, and I kind of empathized with it, and I could understand. And she was like, yeah, she totally, she liked it. And anyways, we did a game with her, and where you put your hand on the forehead, and like she said, what color? And I actually saw like a color, like blue, and I got it right. And then I did it on her, and we got it right, and somehow it worked. It like, and so if you play like psychic games like that with a psychic person, you're going to do a lot better than if you play it with a non-psychic person, and then you can develop those skills. They can kind of bring you up, They can actually give you their power. Like, yeah, like literally rub off on you. But the best way is just to open your mind and make it a possible. If you don't let it possible, then you're never gonna. Just know that God wants to help you. They want to help you. They're flying around you, trying to communicate with you. Just listen to them. That's the same thing with the aliens, If we all invited the aliens down right now, they could land. And we'd have our free energy, we'd be able to fly down a star. It's that simple. It's like Dorothy in Oz. So yeah. So if you want to, do it. and play those little psychic games with the people around you who also have open minds. And that's how to develop your psychic abilities.